Hello, welcome. Now this video is brought to you by Woman of Skill Made Center. In this video we're going to look at VLookup. Now VLookup, we're going to see how we can be able to extract a full record from a table. Okay, so here we have this data which is for the records we have with the ID as our lookup value. Then we have all these records from last name to phone number that we want to extract. So here we're going to create a drop down list. Now to create a drop down list, I showed you earlier on, but I'll do it quick here. Let's go to data, then data validation, then select list. So you have to make sure that you've highlighted where you want the validation to be enforced. Then click on source. Under source here we're going to highlight what we want to be in our drop down list. So we want the IDs, then say OK. So if you come down here, you see that you have your list. Okay, so now what I'll do is that I'll copy this data validation, copy it and paste it in the other places that I want it to come. Okay, by just copying and pasting, it copies the validation. Alright, okay, so when we've done this, I want to show you different methods that you can be able to use, and you'll be able to see which one is better for you. In this case, when I'm using the data validation, there's a part which I need to be able to select the column. So in that case, I can be able to give the names of the columns, which is just 2, 3, 4, 5, because the last one is in column 2, the first is in column 3, just like that. Right, so to use our validation, data validation, we'll say equals our VLookup, we'll say VLookup, our lookup value is that, comma, then our look table array that we are looking at, this is our table array, then comma, we want the column index. Now our column, because we want to drag this across, our column will just pick this one, will not write it in our data, just pick it from there, then say comma, then the type of match is an exact one, so we use the false, then close, press enter. So what we have here is Jennifer. But if I drag this across, because what I want is to be able to drag this across and should be able to pick for all of them, I'm having an error. The reason why is this. Look at this. Let me zoom out a bit. If I come to Jennifer, I see where my lookup value is, I see where my table is, and I see where my column number is. But if I come to Jennifer here, number 2 on first name, you see that Jennifer has moved. The lookup value here has moved to Jennifer instead of staying there, and my table has shifted, and also this one has shifted. Okay, this one is okay. I want it to be able to shift as I go to my left, but what I don't want is this one's to shift. Okay, so to do this, what I need to do is to come to my lookup value. I'll say I don't want this one to shift, so I highlight, I click on my reference, press F4. F4, what it does, it puts $signs in front of all, then it locks it, which means that's locked it. Then I'll also lock my table. I don't want my table to move. I'll press F4, and for that F4. Then for this one here, I don't want it to be, I want it to be able to move. So after I've done that, I can drag this across, and you see that it's returning to me all the values. So if I come here and pick the first one, you'll see that it has got white Mwanza, it's picking the email address and it's picking the telephone number. Okay, so that's how you can do it. But there's another way you can be able to do this. Instead of creating these columns on top here, just in case you're in a situation that you cannot be able to create these columns on top, I'll show you a way that you can be able to create the columns just inside your formula. Now let me show you how the formula works. If I say equals, then and I say columns. What columns does is this: it just, for instance, if I just click on one cell like that, then close, I press enter, it tells me this is just one column. Okay, but I want to create a dynamic range such that as I drag across, it should be able to expand, it should be able to increase, which means column 1, column 2, column 3. So I'll put a full colony, then make again another reference to that cell, so that when as I drag across, it should be able to increase. So if I press enter, what I want is that as I drag this across, the numbers should be able to increase. But right now they're not increasing because it keeps on moving, it's moving to that. But what I'll do is this: to create a dynamic range, I'll double click. So in this case, I want the B to remain here, the first B, but the second B I want it to move. So I'll come and lock the first B by putting a $sign at the beginning. So if I press enter, then I drag this across. If I drag this across, I'll see that it's increasing by 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, but now the thing is that I want it to be 2, 3, 4, 5. So for me to do that, I'll just come here and add a 1. When I add a 1, it will now work out as I want it. 2, 3, 4. Okay, but this is not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is for it to retain the values in there. So now I have to place this formula in the VLookup. Now to do this, I'll say VLookup. What am I looking up? I'm looking up at that value. I want to lock that value. Press F4, comma, my table array. That's my table array here. Then F4 to lock it. Right, I've locked my table array, comma, my column index. I'm using this columns index columns formula. Then the type of match which I want is the false. I can even just put the 0 because false is represented by 0. So if I press enter, you see that this is returning to me the lookup. If I drag this across, it returns to me the values. So let's come here, let's pick number 1, which is the same as the one which we've done there, which is white Mwanza. So everything is working well. Okay, so here you're just using, I'm just replacing these which are on top with a formula which is columns. Right, so take time to go through this. Then if you have got any question, please get in touch with us. Alright, now I've shown you how you can be able to do this in a horizontal manner, but how can you be able to do this in a vertical direction? So in a vertical direction, in this case, we're not going to use columns, we'll use rows. So if I come here and say rows, now for instance, let me just pick a cell besides here, 2, I put a 2, then I close this cell. What I want is to lock not the C. Now I'm only locking the 22 because this is our rows. Rows are represented by the numbers. So I'll come here and only lock I'm only locking the rows. So if I press enter, then drag this down, you see I have 1, 2, 3, 4. And remember, I add a 1 because I want it to start from 2, so plus 1. Then drag this down. Okay, I've got 2, 3, 4. Now the next thing which I'm doing, I'm putting this formula in my VLookup. VLookup, my lookup value is this one here, comma, my table array. So now my lookup value has to be locked, so I press F4. Alright, then my table array, just scroll back up, highlight my table array. Okay, I lock it by pressing F4, comma, my index number is this rows, then comma, the type of match is an exact match, then I close. Okay, so now if I press enter and drag this down, you see that it is picking out the values. So let's come here, pick this, pick the first one, it's the same. Even if I pick another type, another one, it will still be able to return to me. So this is how you can be able to extract records from the entire. Now there's another way you can be able to do this. If you're not comfortable with using rows or columns, you can use the match. Okay, because the limitation of the rows and the columns is that if you change the direction, rows cannot work or columns cannot work. But there's a way you can be able to use the match function. Now how does the match work? Look at this. If I say equals, then I say match. Now my lookup value, let's say, have you seen, let me just escape, okay, so I've got the titles here, and this is what I'm interested in. Now if I come down here, I have the same titles here. So what I want to do is that I want to find out the positions of these titles. So to do that, what I'll need to do is to come here and write a formula to find out what's the position of this last in that array. So I'll use equals match, my lookup value is this one here, comma, my lookup array, I have to scroll up to my title, then highlight my title here, my titles there, press F4 to lock them so they don't move, and if you press 4 it takes you back to your formula, and if it doesn't take you back, eventually you can just press Control backspace to take you back to your formula. Alright, so I'm going to look up that, and I want the match to be exact, so I put a 0, then I can close and press enter. So it's telling me that the relative position of that is 1. So if I drag this across, you see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and if you remember, you just add a 1 because I want it to start from 2, so plus 1 rather, there we go. Then we can drag this across, there we go. So when you do that, now in your formula you can put the your match in the VLookup. So VLookup, I'm looking up this value, comma, my lookup array is this one here. I can lock this one by, sorry, my lookup table array is this one here, that, press F4 to lock, comma, my column index is this match, and then comma, the type of match which I want, the type of lookup value I want is the exact one, so I use the false, and then I close. If I press enter, it returns to me my values. If I drag this across, I'm having an NA. Let's check what we have not locked. Okay, so we have not locked this, our ID there, so we press F4 and it's locked. If you press enter, you can drag this across. Okay, so there you go. If you come here, you can change and it will also change. Alright, so that's how you do this, how to use the lookup value. Alright, join us in our next video for more amazing things you can do with your VLookup.